All right, guys, so this should be a review from yesterday, but you can watch this video to go through the first page of the packet in case you have any questions or you need a refresher. So the first one says draw a model to represent the quotient of 3 divided by 3/4. Since we have a whole number of 3, that means we're going to start with 3 wholes. So we'll draw 3 rectangles. Remember, they don't have to be perfect. Do your best to make them big enough to draw in. And since we're dividing it by 3/4 for this one, we're really asking how many groups of 3/4 are in 3. So listen for that denominator. It's fourths, which means we need to cut these models into 4 equal parts. And once we have them cut into 4 equal parts, we're trying to make groups of 3/4. So every 3 of those fourths will make a complete group. So I'm going to take 3 parts. There's our first group. Then 3 parts makes our second group. And 3 parts makes our third group. And then 3 parts makes our fourth group. So that shows we have 4 groups of 3/4 from those 3 wholes. So the answer would be 4. And you may remember the multiplication shortcut. We can multiply the whole number by the denominator. So 3 times 4 gives us 12. And then when we divide that by the numerator, we'll get that same answer of 4. We're going to run through 2 more examples and then 1 word problem, and that'll wrap up this first page. The next problem for A, it just says 4 divided by 2/3. As soon as we see that whole number of 4, we know to draw 4 rectangles. Again, they don't have to be perfect. Do your best to make them large enough so that you have space to work with. And since we're dividing it by 2/3, listen for that denominator again. Dividing it by 2/3 means that we need to cut those whole models into thirds. So 3 equal parts for each. And once you have them cut into thirds, we're trying to make groups of 2/3. Since we're dividing by 2/3, it's really saying how many groups of 2/3 are in 4. So 2/3 means that every 2 parts will make a complete group. So here's a group of 2/3, then our second group of 2/3, and our third group of 2/3, and the fourth group, and the fifth group, and then there's a 6th group of 2/3. This one divides evenly because all of those groups have 2 parts, meaning 2/3. So 4 divided by 2/3 just gives us 6. The next question is one that won't divide evenly. So when you go over to B, we have 4 divided by 3/5. So again, we're starting with 4 wholes. And since we're dividing it by 3/5, we need to cut each model into equal fifths, which means cut it into 5 parts. So take a moment to cut each of those into equal fifths. Since this is asking us to do 4 divided by 3/5, that means a complete group is going to be 3/5. So that's 3 parts. So when we're making groups of 3/5, we can say there's a group of 3/5 because it's 3 parts, and then our second group, and I'm not going to circle it going across the models just because it gets a little bit messy, but I know that every 3 parts represents a group of 3/5. So from this, we're able to make 6 complete groups. But that 7th group is not complete because we only have 2 parts, we really need 3. So that 7th group gives us a remainder. So since we have a remainder, we know the answer will be a mixed number. So I'm going to set up here, we need a whole number and a fraction. The whole number has to be 6 because we made 6 full groups where each group has 3/5. And then since our remainder was those 2 parts, that's a remainder of 2 out of the 3/5 that it takes to make a complete group. So notice each complete group has 3 parts in it. So our remainder is really 2/3. We had 2 parts left over out of the 3 parts that we need to make a complete group. So your quotient here would be 6 2/3. Remember, you can check that using the shortcut as well, but for this, we're just focusing on the models. And then for the last question with C, it says, Emma is baking cookies for the holiday season. She has 4 boxes of mixture and needs to use 2/3 of a box to make each batch. How many batches will she be able to make? So it's really asking us how many groups of 2/3 are in 4. So your expression or your number sentence is 4 divided by 2/3, which tells us that we need to use 4 complete models or 4 wholes. And since we're dividing it by 2/3, we're cutting each of them into 3 equal parts. And since it's 4 divided by 2/3, that means every 2/3 makes a complete group, or every 2 parts. So there's our first group, because it has 2 parts. There's our second group of 2/3, our third group of 2/3, the fourth group, the fifth group, and the sixth group. This one divides evenly, so when we have 4 divided by 2/3, it gives us 6, and that would mean for this question, it's 6 batches, or 6 batches of cookies. Have a great day, guys, and enjoy the weekend.